I'm starting to feel a lot better about Nebraska's 2026 recruiting class. For the first time in a long time, the Huskers are gaining a lot of momentum. They're in position to land multiple big-time commits by the end of the month, most of those being 4-star. So despite the fact that we're on the up and up, we're going to shoot through the recruiting rankings like a rocket, there's one positioner group that's doing the complete opposite that we need to talk about. Today, I'm going to give you a jam-packed update around the Husker wide receivers because it has hit rock bottom. As it stands, Nebraska might not land a single wide receiver commit in this class. I'm going to give you some news around what's going on behind the scenes, the scoop there, Jacory Short's philosophy, Matt Rhule's philosophy, why aren't we successful, how do we turn this around, and then a couple inside scoops on other Nebraska targets that you need to know at the end of the video. So make sure to watch the entire thing. So really quick, this video is loaded. Hit that like button if you're fired up. Also, we're getting so close to 12,000. Please hit that subscribe button if you're a diehard Husker fan. Let's hit 12K this week. This is the place for you. Once again, hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get into it. We have a lot to talk about. This is going to be an honest video. Nebraska's wide receiver recruiting is at rock bottom. It is doing very, very poorly. And I want to preface by saying this. I'm starting to feel a lot better about Nebraska's recruiting class. The offensive line is in a really good spot after Hayden Ainsworth committed yesterday. Of course, that's a 4-star offensive tackle according to Rivals. We're going to land Luke Sorensen on Friday. That's a 4-star tight end. We're in position for multiple big-time flips. CJ Brown's going to shut down his recruitment next week. So there's a lot of good things going on for Nebraska recruiting. But wide receivers, that is not one of them. There are a lot of issues that we need to talk about. So as it stands, Nebraska has missed out on their top 5. Yes, you heard me correctly. Top 5 wide receiver commits before July. Jabari Brady just committed to Missouri. That's, of course, a 4-star wide receiver. Nebraska's in a good place to land. Ryan Mosley, who visited multiple times in the spring. That's a big jump ball receiver. Of course, he committed to Georgia. Nyziah Rankin, despite the fact Nebraska is likely going to try to flip him, we'll talk about that as the video progresses. He has committed to Illinois as of last month. 4-star Nayland Scott, of course, committed to Arizona State. That was somebody Nebraska wanted badly. There's still murmurs he might visit next weekend, but not looking great. And then last but not least, Jaden Warren, who was supposed to visit last weekend, has completely dropped Nebraska last second. We don't even know why. The Huskers wanted him very badly. Jacory Short said that was his guy, and Jaden Warren just said, you know what? I'm not going to go to Nebraska. I'm not interested. So those are the top 5 receivers Nebraska wanted very badly. It wasn't that they dropped. It wasn't that Nebraska dropped these guys. These guys just dropped Nebraska. And we got some more bad news that Larry Miles was somebody who Nebraska, it was very evident they're getting desperate at that wide receiver spot. So they offered Larry Miles a couple weeks ago. They said, hey, we want you to visit ASAP because we need a guy. Larry Miles said, bet I'm going to visit on June 20th. And then he just canceled that yesterday. That's a high 3-star receiver coming out of Florida, very shifty in that slot. So listen, Larry Miles also not visiting. And then as it stands, Nebraska's only wide receiver commit, Davion Bamba-Whitty. The rumors continue to fly that he's going to decommit. Obviously, he did not commit here when Jacory Shorts was the coach. So, I mean, Jacory Shorts didn't recruit him. Why would he stick around? Why would Jacory Shorts want him? I'm not super high on Davion Bamba-Whitty, and it should be mentioned that this guy hasn't even scheduled an official visit. So that just tells you everything you need to know. If you're a commit and you're not taking a visit, that tells you pretty much not going to stick around too much longer. So there are a lot of issues right now with Nebraska's recruiting, specifically at that wide receiver spot. Again, not really concerned about some of the other positions, but it's mostly D-line and wide receiver. And let's be honest. I'm just going to be honest in this video. Nebraska's recruiting in general is not good. It's just not good right now. We have the worst class in the Big Ten, according to every single recruiting site. We have the worst class in the Big Ten. Okay, we've missed out on so many of our top prospects, whether it's at the wide receiver position, whether it's at the running back position that we're just going to talk about, whether it was Titan Davis earlier, Jordan Campbell earlier. We've missed out on so many quality prospects that the staff invested so much time in. And you want to know the reason why? You want to know the reason why Nebraska's recruiting isn't very good right now? Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. We haven't won enough games with Matt Rhule. Same deal with Scott Frost. It's Scott Frost all over again where, and I don't want to compare the two because Matt Rhule, I believe, is going to win this year. But, you know, Scott Frost had a very successful 2019 class, very successful 2020 class. But then going into year 3, when he didn't have results, the recruiting classes started to fail. That's the same thing with Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule had a losing record in year 1. In year 2, made a bowl game. That was nice, but he still has a losing record in his career with Nebraska. And winning a Pinstripe Bowl doesn't really mean much to recruits. It might mean a lot to us as fans, but to Jabari Brady, he doesn't care about Pinstripe Bowl. He wants to play for Missouri. He's competing, for one of those better bowl games, competing for the playoffs. So we haven't won enough. And also, we're just not aggressive enough when it comes to NIL. Now, I don't blame them. I think that's a good decision, not being super aggressive with NIL. We have plenty of NIL money, but Nebraska's made it clear that, they're not going to outspend some of these other schools for these top prospects when it comes to these high school prospects. They will in the portal, but not for high school because it's so risky. Now, Nebraska, while that might be a good decision right now, who sees these, they're basically hoping that some of these programs, let's just say Auburn. Auburn sucks. Auburn should not be getting these top quality recruits they always do. But let's say, Auburn's bad. They're just as bad as we are. But Auburn always gets top 10 classes because they're reckless with their money. But Auburn's never going to go down on their money. They're never going to say, oh, Nebraska, they're only spending $200K, so we're going to go down $200K. They're going to continue to spend millions of dollars on prospects. So Nebraska, if they want to compete with these schools, they got to start putting up more in these high school ranks. This is the way it is. The price is never going to get lower. That's the unfortunate truth. So as it stands, I just want to run through all of Nebraska's wide receivers that they've went after. And again, all these guys are committed elsewhere. They're not even interested in Nebraska. We don't have a single other wide receiver going to visit us. Janiran Jones is visiting, but we're recruiting him to play corner, obviously. So again, that's the bad news. But I want to also say this. I want to tell you this. Just because Nebraska's class is bad right now, it's objectively bad. It will be bad at the end of the summer. It will be bad at the end of July. It doesn't mean it's going to end bad. Because what Nebraska's doing is they're setting up for the second recruitment for a lot of these prospects. So a Nayland Scott, for example, while he's committed to Arizona State now, if Nebraska wins the amount of games they're trying to this year, whether that's 8, 9, 10, competing for a college football playoff, he's going to be in position to flip. Nyziah Rankin's going to be in position to flip. Ryan Mozee going to be in position to flip. Those guys are not set in stone with their commitments. So Nebraska, they're playing a long game. Matt Rule understands this class isn't going to be very pretty. It's not going to be very sexy at the end of July, despite what some people are saying. It's just not going to be. So this is the hard reality. You might dislike me for it. You might say, Wilson, you're so pessimistic. If you guys really watch my videos, you know I'm super optimistic. But this is just me being real. The class is not going to be phenomenal at the end of July. It's probably going to be the back half of the Big Ten. But it's just because Nebraska hasn't won enough. We haven't put enough on paper. But when we change that narrative this year, and let's say we get Ryan Mozee on campus for a visit against Michigan, and we beat Michigan on primetime television, he said, oh, okay, Nebraska, you're legit. You're actually winning football games. Now I'm going to consider you in a different light. And that changes a lot. So I'm just saying, don't freak out just yet, but we also got to freak out just a little bit. We got to wave the white flag just a little bit here because there's only so much we can do. And even if we do win, who says these guys even want to flip? Because even if we win 8, 9 games this year, Georgia might win 10. He might just stick with Georgia. Or even if we win 8 games this year, who says Illinois doesn't win 9? Or just because we win 8 games this year, Nayland Scott from Arizona State might make the playoff again. They made the playoffs last year. So it's really frustrating. And Nebraska, they put a lot of effort in these guys, and they just missed out on them for whatever reason. Nebraska, they missed out on a lot of prospects in this class. They put a lot of effort in Ty Davis, and he didn't want to come here. They put a lot of effort into Jordan Campbell, and he didn't want to come here. They put a lot of effort into Kelvin Olbon. That's going to be a really hard one to land. They put a lot of effort into Valdon Sony. That's going to be a really hard one to land. Just a lot of issues. And it just goes, you want the answer? We haven't won enough. And that's the hard truth. So, and it just, at insult to injury, we got some bad recruiting news yesterday. Devin Walker was somebody Nebraska has been in a good position to land for about a year now. And Oklahoma just swoops up. They offered him about 2 months ago and they landed him. Okay. So that tells you a lot. And Oklahoma is not a very successful program right now. Okay. They had a losing record last year. They lost to Navy in the bowl game. And that tells you a lot if Oklahoma swooped up in there and got his commitment, right? Ryan Mierak committed to Ole Miss yesterday. That was somebody Nebraska was in a good place to land, but he was really impressed when he took an official visit there. Things can change, and he committed to Ole Miss. And then James Carrington was somebody who was the only other player Nebraska wanted on that defensive line besides Valdon Sony. He committed to Florida State before he even had a chance to visit. So while I'm feeling better about this class for Nebraska, it's not great. It just isn't, guys. Like, this is just me being honest. Like, you look at the camera. Like, I'm being honest with you. It's just not great. The commits we have right now are good, are decent, but we have the worst class in the Big Ten according to every site. We only have one 4-star who's maybe on flip status. He's going to stay with us, and I believe that, but we just need to win football games this year. And if we don't win football games, this is the end. This could be what kills Matt Rule's tenure here because of the exact same as Scott Frost. Because once the recruiting starts to die, everything else starts to die. That's just the end of the day. Like, you got to win. In order to win, you got to have good recruiting classes. Okay, you just got to, especially in modern day college football. This is not the 2000s anymore. You got to recruit at a high level. And what happened with Scott Frost was, he just didn't win those first 2 years. Recruiting started to really tank. The talent really started to tank, and that's why we weren't successful anymore. Matt Rule, this is it. You got to win this year. You got to have that big breakout year, flip a lot of guys last second in this class, and then you're going to set yourself up for a really, really good 2027 cycle. So, again, I don't want to sound like I'm pessimistic. I just want to be honest in this video. What I'm thinking, face to face, like, again, I'm a very optimistic guy. I told you guys multiple times in this video, I think when it's all said and done, Nebraska's going to have a very good class because we're going to win, but it comes down to winning above everything else. If Nebraska rolls out and wins 6 games this year and goes to another Pinstripe Bowl, or even 7 games, some fans might consider that success, but that could be the end of everything, because that might result in us having a really, really poor recruiting class, and that will result in us having a poor transfer class. And then you're looking at this roster next year and saying, wow, the talent's not very good. And then, ooh, there's some problems in the 27 class, and maybe a certain 5-star doesn't want to stick around. So listen, I don't want to go that far, right? Again, I'm still optimistic about the future, but it just comes down to winning. Win this year, and we're not going to have a lot of problems when it comes to this class. All right, guys, just wanted to be honest with you guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Maybe I'm just blowing this up a little bit much. Maybe you're just waiting till signing day. That's cool. That's very good. But you know, as a recruiting channel, we definitely gotta we'll go with the motions, and that's what I'm thinking right now as we speak in June. So let me know your thoughts down below. Hey, if you made it this far, hit that like button and subscribe. Let's hit 12,000. As always, folks, go be great. Go roll, and I'll see you in the next one.